So go on.
So what I was worried about was that, like, I start recording while you're gone, and I'm just letting all the audio from the mic pick up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I replay it back, and I put the volume at the highest possible way, and you can just hear in the background this fucking chicken just bah, 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 and it's like, oh my god, like, is this gonna be on the main recording?
I hope it is.
We'll see. I put the gain on a little less, so hopefully that it won't pick up, or if it will, my voice will drown it out or something. I don't know. I don't fucking know, man. I gotta get out of this poverty setup that I've situated for myself. Like every time I do some form of commentary, they're like, oh, so what's your setup? I'm like, it's a fucking Chromebook, man. It's a microphone and a Chromebook. I get by on my knowledge and my consistency to show up. That's how I get by.
There you go.
I do not have the traditional setup where you can see all my nerd shit behind me so that I go on camera. You see my dresser drawer, my TV slanted weirdly, and like probably the bottle of water that I tossed behind me.
Hey, I'm like that
just
too.
Before the recording.
I mean, like, I don't have like as bad a setup as you, but the thing is, like, I don't have like anything like to show behind me. Like when I put up those videos of like the like Dungeon Dorks videos on my YouTube, like behind me is essentially just a white wall. Like there's my computer, like there's my television behind me. You can maybe see a gun number 2. And that's it.
I wonder if that, like, what does that bring for the consumer? You know what I mean? Because it's such a common thing.
The thing is, you want a set. You want like you want to create an atmosphere in which you understand that kind of echoes the themes of the video, so to speak, or the content. And so, if you've got like an anime YouTuber, like, perhaps if we do some live action anime shit, you'd like to see a bunch of little waifu figurines because what this is about.
Because this guy is about that life, I guess.
So to speak.
But that's, I guess that's the cynic in me, because the last person I want a recommendation for about anime is a fucking weeb. That is the last person I want a recommendation.
You got into a very ironic line of work.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why I enjoy doing this podcast, because I feel like we have a different take on things. But
no, for certain.
Anyway, and I can hear the chicken get started now, so we should probably get into it.
All right, yeah, before it lays like 3 eggs. All right, let's get into it. All right, so what is up, internet? My name is Brando. That is Christopher on the other end of the line, and we are talking anime. Welcome to the Otaku Remix Podcast, where we talk everything and anything anime. And today, we're just kind of giving I guess what you would call like a reaction to the spring 2021 season. First, we talked about the last podcast we did was mostly just like a teaser, kind of looking ahead. Today, we're living it. We are actually a few episodes into the season now, and we're actually just going to talk about what we've been liking, what we haven't been liking so far. And so I know you mentioned you got a chance to squeeze in 4 shows. A little more so, mostly through osmosis from the people around.
Right.
But go ahead and what's one show you've been watching, Chris?
Well, we can start with 86. So yes. 86, as I mentioned, not last week but last podcast,
you mentioned that
was the sci-fi show that, like, I don't know, something about the art style just spoke out to me, and I was like, this might be something that I can get into. I turn it on, and it is not disinteresting, but it does kind of fall into the cliches of a lot of anti-war post Gundams era anime, where it's like the frontline people are considered a lower class, and really war is much more brutal than the public is led on to believe, and so on and so forth. But to give a quick synopsis of that first episode of the show, you basically see it from the perspective of a general in, or more of a lieutenant, I guess, of a ongoing war effort against an unknown enemy right now. The enemy is like not even addressed. And the way that these in the way that these infantries are commanded is basically, imagine like London, right? And instead of your generals being out on the front line, everybody is in London, and all your frontline people, they live out there, and your lieutenants just give orders through like an earpiece, and that's it. And they just have like a data screen in front of them, and that's it. So that helps kind of put a lot of literal distance between them and their men, to the point that like for the first 10 to 15 minutes of the show, when they're talking about these frontline soldiers, like you get the impression that they're just drones, that they're literally just the robots out there. But if you've watched any show like this, you kind of know the cliche is coming. So when it's later revealed, like 15 minutes in, that they're all these people, it's not that surprising. But like, we'll see. The only things I'll point out is that like the show, that first episode had like those tonal shifts that are just made to like really strike those emotional parts. Like they'll have like a really happy moment and then a really tragic moment following it right after. And like, I don't know where the show's gonna go. I have a feeling it's just going to contain a lot of that like over the top tragedy sort of situations, and I kind of wonder if they'll have a thoughtful message behind it, besides just that war is bad. But we'll see. I was none too inspired by that.
Yeah,
that
time will
first
tell with
episode,
that one.
you know.
Yeah, I saw the thumbnail for it, and I know that we talked about the premise last episode, and I was kind of curious, and it's something that I wanted to kind of put time into, like me and plural, but we just never got around to it. So, but
yeah, that's fair. I mean, like it's one of those things that's like the show starts off with like the previous general in charge or lieutenant in charge showing just utter contempt for these infantrymen and being like, yes, go out and die, you pigs and whatever. And then like he retires, and the lieutenant that replaces him is like a young female. She's very she gets very attached to her infantry, but everybody tells her that she shouldn't be, and it's like it just kind of hits these cliched notes a bit too close to home. So there's no sense of drama in that regard. The only drama is if you've never seen something like this be played out. So okay. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'm being too cynical about the show, but like, I feel like if you're going for these types of shows, you have to have a bit more nuance to them, because we've seen all this stuff before.
Gotcha.
Like the Gundam, not even Gundam, but just like space opera style wartime drama genre has been, or subgenre, I guess, has been so heavily treaded on that at this point you really need something to differentiate yourself. And I'm just kind of waiting for, I'm hoping 86 will find something to differentiate themselves, but right now none of the imagery or drama is really pushing it.
Yeah, I'll say right now, with regards to that, like it's not this season, but right now I'm watching Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin, The Advent of the Red Comet, which is sort of like it's a prologue. It's set in the Universal Century timeline, like the main timeline, we'll call it, of like Gundam, and it's basically a prologue to the main antagonist of like the original series of Char Aznable of the Red Comet. Yes. And so, which is why it's called The Advent of the Red Comet. And so it's his whole life, leading up to those moments where he becomes, the Amoros and, the RX-78's, antagonist. And so with regards to, space operas and then doing it, in a certain unique way, this show it's like a kind of a tangential recommendation, but I really like it. And the way that the reasons I do, not just because I'm a big Gundam fan, and honestly, there's not that much, there's no Gundams in it for a while because there haven't even been invented yet, according to the timeline. He's right there at the moment that mobile suits are created. And so, in general, the point being that even without the mechs, and there are some mechs, which are always fun, they really have a keyed in, unique, and for them at this point, like Sunrise and the people at Mobile Suit Gundam, like sort of noted, very unique style, I should say, very unique world, and they're really, really good at writing out political intrigue, because these stories are steeped in very heavy political intrigue that really helps contextualize all of the crazy sci-fi elements. So, like, I feel like they're able to unify all of those themes pretty well.
That's good. But they also have, like, how many decades of world building at this point?
Exactly. Yeah, they have a lot of practice and run off from this.
So they have that background, and as long as they're able to keep that momentum going, like, that's great, because there's so much fuel there.
Yeah.
Like, shows like 86, like, they start off right off the bat, and they're like talking like you've been watching for like years.
That's the thing,
and it's
though.
Like, and it's like there's part of it that I like the intro to Final Fantasy VI starts off that way, where it's just like these are all the characters, or these are all the players involved, but it focuses on certain characters, and you just kind of go with the flow. That's the fabled mise en scène that we haven't brought up in a while.
Yeah, I know,
but
right?
Like, or in media res, or however you want to, however you prefer to describe it. But like, there is a point where it's like, okay, if your character drama is not engaging enough, which 86 has not brought up yet, has not brought up a character that is interesting enough to kind of revolve, have all this political intrigue revolve around, then the show is just going to kind of fall flat. So we'll see how it plays out. It is not like terrible by any stance, but like it's definitely trying to, I don't want to say ape, but it's trying to find an audience in that Gundam camp.
Sphere. Yeah.
And I don't know if it will, to be quite honest, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right, moving on. From some, if you were talking about like tropes and things that you're expecting, I'll throw out one that I watched last night that I kind of spurred the guys on to watch it, and with pseudo regrets. It was, so I'm gonna try and read the how should I say? Well, I'm gonna read the title, but it's kind of, there's some Japanese built into it. But Battle Athletus, Daiden Dokai, fucking restart. But the point being, it's like it's about aspiring athletes from around the galaxy basically gathering in a tournament to be crowned the Cosmic Beauty. And so,
wait, so they're athletes, but they're trying to be the Cosmic Beauty?
The Cosmic Beauty is like a title,
okay,
so to speak, but it's like a very ambivalent title as to like what it does or like anything like that.
Are these all males, females?
Oh, they're all females.
All female. Okay.
Yeah, of course. All women.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're all chicks, and it's sort of like, it's not like an idol show, but like there is sort of like I don't know. It's such a homogenized feel. Like it feels like I'm just watching a commercial for like, I guess you would call it like figurines and shit. Like, but it's a very, but while the actual physical experience of watching it was like really chaotic. So it like starts in the middle of like the actual tournament, like I guess of like them competing to be the Cosmic Beauty. Then it cuts back to like the protagonist, whose name is Kanata Akahoshi. Like they cut back to her childhood when she's like a potato farmer, and like suddenly she's like a space girl, like crashes down, and then like she takes a little cloth from her and tells her everything's gonna be okay, and then suddenly she disappears, and then cuts back to the future where she's competing again, and then cuts back like to like when she's just getting her gets the qualification to be Earth's representative in the tournament, and then you have to go to basically Cosmic Beauty School or whatever the fuck it is. Like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, I know. And so it's all over the place organizationally, and then they're just trying to shove weird amounts of backstory down your throat as quickly as possible in the most jarring ways.
It's so weird how anime, like it has to be such a competitive field, like anime and all these shows.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And like when you see shows try to be as like rule bending as in their narrative style as like this Cosmic Beauty seems to be, you have to wonder, like, how much are they just doing it to differentiate themselves, and how much are they doing it to be like, no, this is a good idea, I swear.
Yeah, I have no idea.
And it's like, man, that just sounds like a hot mess.
Oh, it is. It's a huge hot mess. It's terrible. This is one of the worst shows I've seen in a bit. Mostly just from like a structural standpoint. Like the design for the characters is super normal. Like it's just a bunch of chicks, and like the whole premise is like a very loose, like kind of, you've seen it before, sports like academy situation. But in general, there's nothing special at all about this show, like in any capacity. Which is why I was like lamenting why we had watched it in the first place. It just kind of had a funny name when we were passing through last night. We're like, let's just let's see if we can like give that a shot, because I think we had just finished watching most of the recent episodes of what we intended to actually watch, and so we were just kind of coasting, getting ready to either watch YouTube or this. Right. So here we are. But we had just
put on a speed run.
Yeah, I know, right? We haven't done that in a minute. But I remember we had actually watched another anime I wanted to talk about today. We had just watched, because it just came out, Cestus, the Roman fighter.
Right.
Now, we saw this on our previous episode, as we saw most of the things coming out for the season. And so Cestus is an interesting... it left an interesting impression in the room, I'll say that. I remember Plural specifically saying, a friend of ours, he says that the character lacked intensity, the protagonist. Now, I'll just give a quick preface for people who don't know what Cestus, the Roman fighter, is. It's like 54 AD. There's a young boy named Cestus who's like basically a slave in the Roman Empire, and he's in a school training basically fighters, and the show calls them boxers, at least in the dub or in the sub. They're training boxers, so to speak, because all these boys are trained like gladiatorial fighters, pugilists, that are basically fighting for their survival. And so they're fighting for his freedom in a very traditional fashion. It's like, says, if you win 100 fights, you can be free slave. Lose a single one and you will be slain. Basically that's what exactly happens. Like right at the beginning, like he's given bread, or like something that looks resembling bread, by like a fellow slave who's super nice, and he's like, oh, Rocco, what a good guy. Then he has to fight Rocco for a chance to survive, and then he beats him, and then Rocco dies, and he's super sad. Spoilers for episode 1. But in general, the quality and the writing and everything, I would say like that, it's kind of interesting in the sense that it starts out, the first segment that you see, you click on the episode and you begin watching it before the opening even hits. You're watching this whole fight sequence in the actual gladiatorial arena where he's like kind of waking up from getting like knocked down, and it's all 3D animation, and it looks a little rough at first.
On a scale, like how bad we talking?
It's not treading all the way into 2016 Berserk yet, but it's like it's tepidly flirting around the boundaries. It's like, I would say, like standard for Netflix productions, I should say. Like,
that's
not
fair,
yeah.
So like the bad moments of Baki, more or less.
Yeah, like service. Well, Baki's gotten quite good actually at that.
Well, no, I know that's why I specified the bad moments. Like there are times in that, especially in that first season, when they cut to hard 3D, and it's like, oh, guys.
Now what confused me, I'm not sure exactly what the choice was. This is just something that I noticed, is that so they did a 3D animation for the entire beginning sequence, and for the opening, and for the outro. Yeah. Now the rest of the episode, entirely 2D, all the way through.
That's not too rare. Like JoJo does that.
I was like, huh.
Part 3 did that in particular.
Yeah, I was like, there's no more 3D. It's all 2D, like all the way through. I'm like, this is fine. Like, I don't have a preference, so to speak, as long as like the one can be like integrated and like composited well. I really don't care how you use your 3D animation, as long as it doesn't look stiff and like rough. But either way, the production quality aside, which was serviceable to say the least, this show is it's pretty average, honestly. Kind of dragged this out for a little bit longer than it needed to be, but in general, the protagonist is kind of like sort of like Shinji, sort of in like a Evangelion situation. Like he just really doesn't want to do this. Like he does not want to, because he's like, if I beat them, I'm a murderer. Like,
the reluctant hero.
It is
a dark situation.
His
the difference like, the difference is that like he's literally fighting for his own life, whereas Shinji is like, he doesn't know what he's fighting for, and that's where the reluctance comes in. Like you have to, like, whenever we're making characters like this, unless it's such a personal piece, like, I just watched a review about a review on this, so that's why it's coming to mind. But it's like, I'm thinking about the Pink Floyd movie The Wall, right? Like, that is such a personal goddamn piece that it's like, even if you don't like the movie, you still have to respect what the author was doing because it comes directly from him and his life. Yeah. Unless you are doing that, you really need to follow the rules of, like, what makes a protagonist relatable. And, like, having somebody that, like, in a life or death situation doesn't care for their own life, or not doesn't care, but, like, isn't, like, is reluctant to fight, it's like, I don't know, to me that's such a weird turn off. Like, at least like what makes Shinji different, and I know people don't even like Shinji, so this is even arguable, but, like, what makes him different is that, like, he's being thrusted into this by a military force. Yeah. And it's not for his own life. It's like, no, you have to do this. Why? No, because you have to do this. Get in the goddamn cockpit.
Yeah. There's elements of that, and I understand, like, the perception in the room was like, oh, he being a bitch, and it's like, yeah, I get it. Like, there's empathetic elements of him being pushed into the scenario. Like, he's being pushed, he has to because he's a slave. And then on top of that, you know, you think he'd be motivated by his own life, but he's so, how should I say, childlike. His trainer, like the protagonist trainer, like the main protagonist, obviously is Sastus, as the title would belay. And he's like, he's gonna revolutionize boxing, so to speak, because, like, he's so fast. Weird. He's extremely agile. That's his he's smaller than most, but he wins with a flurry of blows and good technique. Yeah. And because he's such a small boy, they're like, he's like, if he gets hit once, it's unlikely he's gonna get back up. So he has to keep moving, so to speak. But is like, when you watch it though, is it inspiring? Because if it's not, then it's just gonna fall flat. Yeah, for me, I mean, like, it's like it doesn't land all the way yet, because he tries to, he's so atypically good guy. Like, he beats a slave, and then he tries to talk like the emperor, who's a 17-year-old, you know, essentially child, and he's not too much younger. He basically, all the crowd in the Roman arena are like, kill him, and then he turns to Shao Kahn and asks, it begs for mercy. Yeah, he basically turns to Shao Kahn and is like, look, I know I just bodied him, but please don't kill him. And then the way it plays out is, you know, like, there's all this, like, controversy. It's like, you can't tell what the emperor to do, and then it's like all this other shit. Well, then the emperor, the emperor's a boy, and he's really empathetic, and, you know, eventually this guy gets killed anyway. But so no recommendation, yes recommendation. Yeah, for see how it pans out. I'm gonna give it a TBD. I'm gonna let it pass. It is basically treading very average waters at the moment, but that's fair. We'll give it some time to flourish. I've seen worse, I'll definitely say, but it is a little bit more on the bland side. I definitely think that it appeals to a very small audience, or rather, I should say, a very segmented specific audience. It's mostly people who like historical, people who like action. If you like something that's cute, there is, like, literally 0 females in the show besides one, and it's like the mother of the emperor. So, like, if you're here for any sort of cheesecake, exit stage left. Like, there's literally no women in the show. Basically, I wanted to mention that at some point. That's interesting. It's only interesting because of how much cheesecake there is nowadays. I'm not saying women shouldn't be in shows. Before I'm saying it's like in my mouth. It is huge fucking sausage fest in that show. Like, there's no females. But are they all, like, big muscly men and then, like, little Mac, or is it just like all teenage boys? Like, are we talking the first 3 parts of JoJo, or the most recent or the most recent 3 parts of JoJo? Where it goes from bodybuilders to life. There is, like, a weird mix of, like, these sort of, like, slightly buff teens and, like, the adults they shouldn't be fighting because but they, you know, it's the Roman, like, they specifically say, like, there was no weight classes, they had to fight. Right. Okay. So anyway, all right, that aside, so that's how it is. Well, we want to talk about boxing. Yeah, I figured this would be a decent segue, so we can go to
Yeah, so let's go into Nomad. Nomad, the show I didn't want to exist.
It's quite. I haven't seen episode 2 yet, but
Yes.
there's 2 episodes as of this recording.
Yeah.
But
First episode's great.
I really liked episode 1.
Really good. So it is kind of like, I don't want to say a hard reset. I almost want to call it a hell reset, where it's like they take the end of Megalobox season 1, and it's like 5 years later, this guy's in the shitter.
Yep.
Which makes sense for the character. The character's always been like self-destructive in certain ways. But yeah, it just kind of resets him into a situation that is not entirely different than how he started in the first season, but unique enough that he has a different set of issues and problems that he must overcome for this season. What really sells it for me is the pacing of the show. That first episode is paced so goddamn well. It flows from one scene to the next. The dialogue is kept to a sparse minimum. You only hear what you need to hear. There's no like even a hint of filler between them. It is just beat to beat to beat, and it's so concise, and the music is like a nice touch. The flow of the action is fantastic. I think the fighting is even better in this first episode than a lot of the fighting was in the first season of Megalobox. It's just choreographed better, in my opinion, except for like a few key moments in the first season.
In general, I just feel like it all hits harder. Like there's just this sort of like visceral nature to the way that he's boxing now, and then like the boxing match that he eventually finds himself at the end in.
Yeah. And yeah, I really, really enjoy it. Honestly, I'm going to wait to go into detail more because I'd rather let the season play out. But honestly, if you had any reservations for the new season like I did, put them aside. Show looks fantastic and will hopefully continue as such.
Yeah, that's the big thing. We're hoping they stick the landing, which obviously was a bit.
Some people really did not like the way that last season ended.
I'll tell you right now, I know more people that don't like it than did like it, honestly.
Yeah, it's so. Maybe we'll talk. Maybe we'll spend an episode on Megalobox soon. But like,
someday we can do like a full.
It's an interesting recap. Show, and maybe it says more about who's watching it and how they react to it. Because I don't think anybody would come out of that show saying that it's bad. I think they would come out saying that they don't like it or that it's bad because they don't like it. I don't think they would come out saying like, "Oh, it was poorly done." You know?
I have one friend of mine. His name is Andrew, and he's so disappointed by the ending that he feels like he wasted his time on the whole series.
Right, but that's what I mean. Like the inference is like it's bad. I don't like it, thus it is bad.
Yeah, no.
Like we're getting to that point with Attack on Titan. Like I messaged you recently, and we're not going to talk about the end of Attack on Titan yet because A, it hasn't ended, and B, we don't want to do any spoilers.
Have you read the manga ending?
No, I haven't.
Okay, never mind then.
But like hearing what everybody is freaking out about, I'm nervous. But that being said, I'm not going to pretend like those first 3 seasons weren't good. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can still make the classification that the show is very well done and it doesn't stick the landing or the message is fucked up or something like that. But like, you cannot say that it isn't well produced and it isn't well thought out.
Yeah, of course.
You know, but I like that, and that's what I mean with Megalobox. Not to the, I'm not going to say they're the same type of product by any means, but Megalobox season 1 is very well produced, and this first episode of the second season is equally, if not even, on another level of production.
Oh yeah, for me, I find that in general, and I really like the pilot for episode 1 for season 1. But for season 2, it has just as much of a fantastic impression, honestly. I really like the mood. It's just so starkly different. Like, where it used to be sort of like this sort of scrappy underdog feel. this is like the grizzled sort of. It kind of feels like an old cow. Like it feels like a Clint Eastwood movie, or like like a Logan. Like it feels like that sort of old soldier, sort of old cowboy getting ready to do his last ride sort of story.
Similar, yeah, but I feel like it's also one of these like he can't give it up. He can't give up being that type of person, and now like the first season let him be the scrappy underdog, and the second season is like him trying to continue being that person. And the world saying, no, you can't. You cannot continue to be this way because it just leads down one path.
For him, it's like I don't think he wants to be a scrappy underdog, so to speak. But he only knows one way.
He still wants the characteristics of it. Like what made him so likable in that first season is that like he didn't want fixed fights. He wanted to fight like true to his word and everything like that. And look where it's put him. Like season 2 is look where it got you. It got you that really one high pitch at the end of season 1, but it's led you nowhere else since, because life doesn't work like that. The world doesn't work like that. You have to play by its rules eventually. And right now it's like this is like the second coming of that reality check.
Yeah,
of like
see some parts of
you
that.
have to play by the rules at some point, because the world just doesn't work like that otherwise. But honestly, I could go on for another like 15 minutes about Megalobox, but maybe we'll come back to it on maybe a recap and mid-season situation.
Yeah, we do for season 2 and for maybe even season 1 eventually.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should definitely move on. So just in case, but for later. So let's see, what else do we got? So I think we'd seen the preview for this show a long time ago, but it just premiered this season. To Your Eternity is one that I just saw. I don't know if you got a chance to see it.
I didn't get a chance to see it yet. No, I thought it was coming out last season, and I just missed it. But I guess it only came out this season.
Yeah. No, I was equally confused because I was like, oh, it's finally out. I thought it was going to be out last winter, but and it might have been delayed with a lot of the other stuff,
True,
COVID, etc. But I digress. In general, To Your Eternity, the pilot is out, and it is somber. It is different. It is everything. You can read the synopsis, and you basically get exactly what you're about to see from a very physical sense. Like you look, it's like a mysterious immortal being who's basically like, I don't know, a ball. It gets sent to Earth. It has no emotions, no identity. There's sort of a narrator that kind of narrates over this whole experience at the very, very, very beginning. It's just a sphere, and then it hits a rock, turns into a rock, stays as a rock for a very long time, until eventually like the snow and the rain and the moss eventually grows over it and inherits moss and kind of understands what that is, until a wolf dies on it, like limping, and dies on the rock. It takes the form of the rock, or excuse me, it takes part of the form of the wolf.
Yeah.
And a rock again. No, it takes the form of the wolf. It gains consciousness and begins to kind of traverse this sort of tundra that exists until it meets a boy who apparently thinks he owns the wolf, like it's like that it was his dog.
Yeah.
And so he creates a connection with the boy, and it kind of goes on from there. And it's super like sobering and very how should I say, quiet and like melancholy. Like it's a very good production though. Like animation's fantastic, but it's all in these sort of nuanced moments because it's only the boy and the wolf until it's just the boy.
Okay.
And because to spoiler it, because I might as well, because it's the premise of the majority of the anime. Eventually he acquires the form of the boy and sets off on a journey, because it's all about like this sphere, this immortal entity. It's like they mention it several times, like he needs to experience things like stimulus, like experiences, places, people. And so, but this first story with the wolf and the boy is very it's not explicitly sad. I mean, it is sad,
right? But it's compact, I imagine. It's like
it's pretty concise.
It's a one episode story sort of situation.
Yeah, and I feel like that might be the theme for most of it.
That's cool.
But for this first one, I really liked it, honestly. For as for as sobering as it was, it definitely felt very earned emotion. It was one of the more affecting pilots I think I've seen in a little bit. So I'm actually looking forward to the rest of the season.
The way it was summarized when we brought it up months ago It seems like a Odyssey of Eternity, where it's like going from one experience to the next, and the stories that encapsulate those moments, or the moments that encapsulate those stories, I guess is the better way to describe it. But yeah, definitely something to look out for. Might be a show that you don't watch episode to episode. Might be something to just wait on, because there's no driving force behind the episode to episode. It doesn't seem like there's any drama.
Yeah, not yet per se. Like it definitely, it kind of ends sort of solidifying the premise, but not really like any sort of like momentum on the narrative. But I mean, they could change it. Definitely in the preview, it looks like it gets more positive and it gets connected to a larger world. So I don't know if like this being's travels will have like a through line, or if it'll be sort of more anthological, like watching like Mushishi or something like that. So
yeah,
we'll see how it plays out.
Okay.
But right now, I do like it quite a bit.
Fair enough. All right, and that is To Your Eternity, right?
Yeah, To Your Eternity. So
okay, that's cool.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so transitioning to my third show that I watched. I'm trying to think which one I want to choose. I'll choose the lesser of the two, and that is I Got Rejected. Thus, I took in a runaway high schooler and shaved.
See, I've been seeing a lot about this.
The title. The title has been like rewritten in like 5 different ways from the original Japanese, but so we talked about it last week, and I was like, man, that show sounds like it sucks, and you're like, yeah, it probably does suck, but people tell me that it's okay, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll give it a shot, and so I gave it a shot. It is on this borderline of like of a like a fantasy ideal situation, and like and like moral story, kind of like day and slice of life moral story kind of thing.
It felt like it was leaning towards more of the latter, but I mean, it would be hard not to play up the former. I feel like for cheese,
it's just too hard. It can't resist.
Exactly.
And like part like that's where like for me, I start questioning the intent behind a lot of this stuff, and it's not like that's my cynicism. That's just my natural tendency at this point. But like it, like I don't know where it's going with it. To be quite honest, I don't know where this show is going with it, and I think I say it more in the sense of I want to give it the benefit of the doubt that there is no romantic interest between these two besides the initial like premise.
Yeah,
but I have my cynicism, and so I don't believe it for a second.
You're like, no, they will make a couple out of these.
Yeah, or even if they don't, that's what they want people to think, and that's what they want people to like believe that there is. You know what I mean?
Infer,
and it's similar to that Fox show, the Fox Maid show, the Fox Girl. What you're talking about. The one that we like stopped halfway through and we're like, we can't watch this.
Oh yeah. Where he touches the tail and it's like,
it's just one of those things that's like, man, like I get the appeal of these slice of life shows. They are fun, lighthearted, and ultimately like relatable because they deal with real life situations as opposed to a vast majority of anime that are fantasy related, like setting fantasy related. But they still fall in the fantasy bracket because of these like situations that are just like that just, I don't know, for me it's hard to get over that cynicism. It really is.
Yeah. No, I understand.
But like the main character's fine so far. Like he has a good head on his shoulders, I guess, because he takes in this girl and is like, no, I am not sleeping with you. I don't care how many times you offer. I am not sleeping with you. And it's like, good for you. Look at you. Good for you, main protagonist.
Solid moral.
But at the same time, it's like you see how the high school girl is written, and it's like, I don't know if this is like, I don't know. I'm more interested to hear how people that would not normally watch this type of show would react to it. That's what I'm more interested in.
Hey, somehow people were more cool with this than they were with that bullying show.
God, that's true. I didn't even watch that. I saw a clip of it and I was like, nope, no thanks, I'm good. I saw all the manga art from it as well, and it's like, it is super fetishistic in the manga.
Point is, that's
right, but that's what but you were saying. I'm not going to argue too much about it, but you were saying last week that it wasn't that fetishistic, and I was like, Brando.
Nah, I feel like it panders
Brando. Either way, we run away from those two topics.
But yeah, I'm gonna give that show a shot. The one we were just speaking about. But yeah, I was hoping it'd be a little. I knew it would have trouble leading away from the sort of like the more pandery elements of it.
That first episode definitely has a lot of it.
Yeah. I knew that it had to play those up a little bit, especially in a pilot. But like, if it's more not even cerebral, but like a little bit more soulful in its sort of slice of life style of like self-examination of a life, I will enjoy it. But if it's too much of like, will they, won't they, fuck, it's like, I'm out of here. Like,
yeah.
We'll see how it plays. But moving on, you mentioned that you're interested in this show. I got to see all of it very quickly because it's pretty darn short. The Way of the House Husband on Netflix. So
yeah, I wanted to see it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Super short, only 5 episodes, and they're only 15 minutes each.
Okay.
So it's pretty quick. There's a bunch. It's just it shotguns you with a bunch of skits. Like there's a bunch of skits.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes this an easy review. Is it funny?
It is. It is very good.
Okay, we'll see you guys next time on the Otaku
Okay. That's it. We're all done. Wrap it up. Woo! No, it is sort of like has this sort of not 100% of the time, but it just has this sort of animatic style where like there is no animation. It's like a bunch of stills and like sort of moving.
I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's sort of stills, and then like you sort of move the not even the models, but like the sort of still objects. You're not animating them.
You click and drag. Yeah,
yeah. You just eventually click and drag it. There is some animation, but it's mostly just like for mouse flaps.
But it's very intentional. It's done for like.
Oh yeah. It definitely feels like
comedic
it's to play up
stylings,
the comedic elements of it, and it's pretty solid. I had a good time. For certain watching it. I think that it should appeal the most. And it's a very easy sort of formula, so to speak. Like, okay,
it sounds like a show that's good to decompress with, where it's like it is just funny. There's no like moral dilemmas or drama. It is just slapstick humor, and that's all.
Yeah. It's solid. Yeah,
that's fair. That sounds good.
That's most of what we had. I did watch a little bit of Tokyo. I did watch most of the pilot for Tokyo Revengers, and that was okay-ish.
Really? I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah. No, I didn't dislike it. I didn't think that. I think I was expecting a little bit more. But I do like the premise, and I'm just interested. I'm a little confused at how the pilot ended, but beyond that, I'm looking forward to see how it proceeds from there.
Yeah, that first episode, like, you get vibes of Erased. I think the show was called.
Yeah, a lot of people made mention of that in the crowd.
Yeah, but it has a bit of a twist where Erased is like stuck in the past, but this one is like back. It's apparently the time travel is just back and forth. So we'll see how it plays out. I at least enjoyed the main protagonist. Maybe I related a bit of like, how the hell did I end up here? So I enjoyed that avenue of his perspective. It was a little. Like, I don't know, there's a little relevancy in that regard. But we'll see how it plays out. It depends on how much the plot gets up its own ass. But we'll see.
That's always how it plays out.
Yeah, pretty much.
And last, and probably least, My Hero Academia.
My Hero Academia. We talked about that last week.
It's pretty plain Jane right now.
Yep. It's McDonald's.
It's you know what you're buying.
It's always there, and it'll nourish you just enough to get you by.
I will say, so the pilot sucks ass. The second episode was a little bit more refreshing because it like gave more scope, lore. Talked about Endeavor, talked about like Izuku and like the past One for All users and stuff like that. So I was worried this season definitely still feels hella fillery, but there just definitely seems to be some nuggets of world building and like still narrative momentum that thankfully are still there. But yeah, because I was like looking at the premise, it's like, oh, it's just a season-long tournament arc between these two classes. I'm like, this, I'm sure visually will be fun, and there's gonna be fun moments and character moments, but like narratively, like it's just like a full stop. It feels like to what we were developing.
Yeah,
but so far,
theme park territory where it's like,
yeah.
Remember
like,
all these things you love.
Yeah, it's like
Don't
kind of living
rock
in a
the
void.
boat too much. We need to keep this going.
I know. Like, let's stretch this out for a bit, boys. We got to cash the checks. But in general, it does seem pretty solid so far. I haven't seen episode 3, but episode 2 is giving me hope that it won't be an entire waste of time. We'll see if they can maintain that. But moving along, I think that's really it. I don't think I had anything else I really watched from this season, so to speak. I'm watching everything else I'm watching is like, I haven't either got to it this season or hasn't premiered yet. I'm still waiting for the Shaman King remake to come out.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah, that or I missed it. I don't know, but I haven't seen it anywhere yet. But I'm eagerly waiting. I'm pretty sure. I'm fairly certain it comes out at some point later this month. But I have not seen it out on any of the peripheral yet. That we are able to watch anime on in the West. But that's about it. I think that we'll call that, our. Oh yeah, I forgot one. There is one.
Okay.
One last anime, and that is Combatants Will Be Dispatched, the Konosuba sequel series, so to speak, from that one guy who does the Konosuba series. And it's solid. Like, how should I say, it's not as paradigm defining, like franchise starting and like as immediately hilarious as Konosuba. But it definitely reeks of the same DNA. Like, it just smells like Konosuba. Like, the writing is just eerily similar. The comedy is eerily similar in good ways, not in a bad way. But like, there is a very strong stylistic impression that you get. It's like, oh, this is that guy. Like, you can tell if you watch the 2 seasons and possibly the movie of Konosuba, you kind of have a distinction for the type of humor that you're getting. And there's definitely just references to the same sort of paradigm. Like, there's still like a demon lord that you have to kind of like overcome in his society, and the sort of and it's trying to be very parody-esque. It tries to make fun of a lot of the tropes of RPGs / just general anime fiction, like anime fantasy, I should say.
Right. But at the same time, like, that definitely feels less inspired, especially if you've already watched Konosuba.
Oh, it's definitely a little bit riffy, but at the same time, it definitely has its own, like new paradigm. Like, there's definitely like a new sort of dynamic between Six, like the main character is Combat Agent 6, and like he's basically harem, not unlike Konosuba's harem, but this one's is a little bit more quick to kind of establish the dynamic, I think, than the sort of slow-going beginnings of Konosuba. And
yeah, that's fair, I guess. I don't know. I think that's just incredibly disinteresting to me at this point. Like, it'll resonate with people that really like Konosuba and are like impatient for the next season, if there is going to be a next season.
I know.
But like, yeah, even then, like, even if Konosuba came out with a 3rd season, I'd be like, nah, thanks, I'm good. I got mine. I'm good.
Yeah,
like that movie. There's certain stuff where like you watch it originally and you're like, oh, this is it. Like the newness and the novelty of it, like, is like really is fulfilling enough. But it's like, after a while, you're like, all right, like, we got to move past this. I have to move past this.
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends how it evolves, like the story, the product, And in general, Konosuba, it's been turning the wheels for a while. Like, there hasn't been a whole lot of progression in the story. Like, are we getting any closer to the Demon Lord?
It's not even the plot. It's more so like how the dynamics of the situation, and the elements of the humor are evolving. And right now, it's like they hit the same beats over and over and over again. It's like Darkness is a masochist, or I forget, or sadist. I can't remember the terms off the top of my head. Yeah. She's a masochist. Aqua's whiny as hell. I forget the male protagonist's name at this point.
Shit! I'm actually forgetting it too. Holy crap.
Exactly. But he's a scumbag. Megumine's a weirdo.
She's like a riff on the Chunibyo sort of archetype. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's really funny that first season, especially when you like know those archetypes. But it's like they steadily become the archetypes that they riff, and it's like, okay, well then what the fuck is the point anymore?
you know, I think in Combatants, there's actually, so like the characters there, like me and Plural were watching it, we're kind of like, that's Aqua, like that's Megumine, so to speak. Yep. And like in Six's harem, there's like one girl who's like a chimera, and she's also sort of like their Chunibyo sort of humor-esque. And she's like kind of going off like, you know, I was raised by, you know, like, you know, trying to like create her own backstory lore. And then she immediately like kind of breaks character. She's like, I don't want to be like this. Like, my dad told me this is how you introduce yourself. Oh, and so
that's funny.
There's some funny like doubling backs on certain things.
Okay.
So,
all right, maybe I'll give it a shot. We'll see.
But yeah, in general, there is some unique arctic. Like there is no Darkness yet. Actually, well, there's one yet. So
we can do without. I love Darkness, but we can do without more Darkness.
There's sort of a new one. There's like a girl in a wheelchair, and she like is immortal, and basically she's like trying to like guilt trip and protect and like being her husband.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There's a lot of there's some humor to be enjoyed. And in Combat, he's like more of a purposeful scumbag, because like when he does scumbag things, he gets rewarded, like with evil points they call it. Right. He works for like this evil mega corporation, and like when you do scumbag things, like the corporation rewards you.
So he just nonchalantly.
Yeah. He just does lecherous things all day. And he's just like fucking. It's like she's like, oh, you want to know what's behind these like panties? And he's like, sure. And just like flips her fucking like drawers up. He's just like, what the fuck? And he was like, evil points, yes. So
that's so. That truly sounds like all those people that just. They just love to do the evil side of any game that they're in. Just because it's quote unquote more fun. And I guess like I understand the sympathy, but like I don't know. It's always so like you wonder what those people would be like if there were no repercussions for things in the real world.
I let me just say, I'm not gonna describe the entire scenario, and this is a tangent outside of anime, but there was I was playing D&D recently. I DM for 2 groups regularly, and so there's a situation I placed before the players. There are these trials, so to speak, to get into this temple. Yeah, and one of them is a trial of cruelty. And I'll just say that the one of the players I had, like there's 2 of them taking this trial of cruelty, where they were basically placed in a situation where they had to like kill innocents. And while one person was like, "No, we can't do this. We can't do this." And the other guy's like, "Fuck yeah, we can do this!" And like,
I already know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, exactly. Because he's just like that.
And he's just like, "Yeah, we can go for it." And I'm like, and he just does it, and it's like, and he's one of those people that you think about when you think about like, what if every day was the purge? Like where would we be? You know?
No, exactly. Like where would things lie if all morality and ethics were just thrown right out the window?
He would just be doing anything he desired. He would just be drinking expired milk. He would just be walking.
Oh my god! Oh my god! That happened to me by accident the other day. Not expired milk, but like, oh man, it was like I was just going through the fridge and I found like some packaged chicken that was like well prepared, and I was like, okay, fair enough. You start eating it and it's all fine, and then you look at the expiration date and suddenly it's like a month later. Rip. And you're just like, well, I've laid my bed now, might as well just sleep in it, and you just finish the rest of it.
Jesus. Can you feed that chicken to the chickens?
I think that's morally wrong, but I don't know. I don't know if you can feed chicken to chickens.
You know, we'll have to
I
ponder
know
this
they
another
can't.
time.
They can't eat their eggs. That's a bad thing.
Oh, okay.
But
I'll have to go. Oh, this will be a Google search after the podcast ends.
yeah, I don't know. But okay, well, when people are not searching about forced cannibalism on their farm animals, where can people generally find us, Brando?
They can find us on Instagram. I know we have the Otaku Remix Instagram. We have obviously the YouTube where this will be up. If you were listening, then thank you for listening. Go ahead. If you enjoyed the podcast today, go ahead and hit the like, comment, and if you want more of this content, subscribe. And besides that, we do have the tweeters, the Otaku Remix Twitter as well. And I think that's everywhere we're at right now. I know that we were looking to possibly expand our podcastian location, but until then, right now, YouTube is the main place you can find the Otaku Remix podcast.
Alrighty. Well, that sums it up quite nicely.
Yep. Well, thank you for listening as always. If you made it to the end, we appreciate you. We love you and hope you had a good time. As always, have a good day, have a good life, and we will see you on the next one.